1, 2, 3. All my life I've tried to find a place where I could be secure within a center that was calm and trouble-free. Thought the peace I sought was realizing this desire. Tried so hard to get there, but my hope began to tire. Then I learned the secret, simply letting what is be, accepting what the wind of life is blowing down to me. Going with the flow, I find a peace that's bound to last. Now is all the time I have to love before it's past. I gotta bend like a willow in the wind that's blowing free. Gotta bow to the current that we call reality. Like a child, I thought that life should give me what I want. Every wish be granted and no difficulty haunt. I believe that one day when I realized my dream, I'd at last be happy in this fickle changing stream. What we call reality is right here in the now. When I don't accept it, doesn't change it anyhow. All that non-acceptance does is bring on fear and hate. Insane is the one who cannot face the fruits of fate. I gotta bend like a willow in the wind that's blowing free. Gotta bow to the current that we call reality. More than once I've raised my fist and shook it at the sky. Cursed this path of seeking out the wherefore and the why. Longing for the dawn while clinging to a starless night. Girding for the battle and then running from the fight. Life is like the wind, it's sometimes gentle, sometimes rough. And any time I hate the way it is, well, that's just tough. When I can't allow what is to be, I found the way. When I can't embrace the now, I rise above the fray. I've gotta bend like a willow in the wind that's blowing free. Gotta bow to the current that we call reality. I've gotta bend like a willow in the wind that's blowing free. Gotta bow to the current that we call reality. That we call reality. And the acceptance of reality is what we call love, our definition of love. So that's the shortcut to love, is accepting what is, what already is. You're tuned in to A Question of Meaning, featuring Katie and Arthur. I'm Katie.
Well, welcome to another show. And we've been doing themes on this show, and we decided today we're going to do something a little different and not do a theme. So we have no idea what we're going to talk about, which is kind of bracing, exciting, and scary at the same time. And
The show without a net. We simply turn the camera on for 1 hour, and what you see is what you get.
and you may never end up seeing this. It may be too
Actually, that's not
crazy.
entirely true. This is our second take of this show because I forgot to plug my guitar in.
That's right.
Oh well, we'll see how it goes. It's kind of a trying day today. One of
Aren't
those days.
aren't they all trying?
They are for me. God, I'm 64 years old. What a drag. I remember looking at an album cover. Any of you folkies out there remember Ian and Sylvie? And I looked at their first album cover and I saw that Ian Tyson, their Canadian folk duo, Ian was 27 years old. And I remember thinking, God, he's old. That guy's like an old man. Jesus.
Yeah, when you're young, you never think it's going to happen to you. You never think, you certainly don't plan for what it's going to be like being old. Nobody prepares you for all the things you have to go through.
That's not all they don't prepare you for.
Well, that Bend Like a Willow, that was my philosophy that turned into song by Arthur. And
It was your idea.
But
You
it
gave me
was-
the idea for the song.
right, that's what I mean. It was my philosophy. I was saying the phrase "bend like a willow" because it had come to me, and it just became like a phrase I would repeat to myself, a kind of mantra, to remind myself to accept what was in front of my face at any given time, and it's just that's what I think is sanity. Really, is no matter what the circumstances, no matter how horrific they are in any situation, it's the way it is. And so the not only the sane response, but the best response is to just start from the place of acceptance. Just start from this is the way it is right now. And
Why do I
then
hate
go
that?
from there.
That's so
it's
true.
so
It's like duh. It's like a
Yeah, it's like
huge
duh.
and like 1 billion point type.
That's right. It's pragmatic, and it also seems incredibly obvious. But that's what's so insane about it. See our work. We are all innocent by reason of insanity. That we don't accept the way it is. We spend enormous amounts of times wishing it was some other way than it is, rejecting it as bad, wrong, just not, it can't be this way. It can't be this way. It must, something's, spending all sorts of energy trying to figure out, how it could be some other way than it is, than just rather starting from now, starting from here, and then going. And that's the thing that, for me, not only is it's just obvious and sane to accept it the way it is, it's like your actions that you take in response to whatever is confronting you is going to be much more effective because you're dealing with the way it is. You're not dealing in some fantasy realm, some delusions about the way you wish it were. That how effective could your actions be if they're based on delusions?
I always thought that's the Jewish people really dealt with a much more pragmatic approach to life.
Right.
The Goy are out there like, when you wish upon a star, and someday my prince will come, and all this kind of, faith and belief and hope and all that stuff. I just thought of a great quote by Werner Erhard, who said, "You do not get what you want in life. You do not get what you want in life. You only get what you want if what you want coincides with what you got right now. Mm-hmm. Take your attention off what you want and put it on what you got. God, I wish I could live that. Maybe it's because I was spoiled, as a child.
Definitely, it hurt you.
Yeah, my mother let me get away with everything, no consequences, and man, I thought life should be like that. It should be served up to Arthur on like a velvet cushion, with ice cream on top. It should be a...
Well, actually, I thought of, and here's one of the things from not having had a topic or picked out songs, but when you were singing "Bend Like a Willow," I thought of the song "Opening," because that says a lot about who you are and where you've come from, and that wanting to get into that nautilus. What did you? No, you don't call it a nautilus.
Oh yeah, when I was a kid, about 5 years old, I can remember I was at a country aunt up near Monticello out of Tallahassee, and she had a big conch shell in her living room, and they told me that I could listen to the sound of the beach or the ocean in it. Hold it up to your ear, and I remember doing that. And I remember looking at this big shell and intuiting that scrolling must continue to curve inward on itself, and that deep inside, at the heart of the conch, there must be a place of secure refuge where I fantasize, I'm really longing for it, to shrink myself down to tiny size and get in that innermost chamber of the conch where they couldn't get to me. And I don't remember asking who they were, because I think maybe they were everybody.
Yeah, 5 years old. I mean, that's pretty intense, really, that you were thinking that way
It
already.
was maybe wombular, uterine memories or something, or like a desire to return
maybe.
to the womb.
Could be, right. Well, and, we talked...
They had to drag me out with forceps. It was a
Right.
breech birth. My mother weighed 100 pounds, and I weighed like 9 pounds, 6 ounces. They had to drag me out with forceps.
We talked
It's
2
dangerous
or
out
3
there.
weeks ago about it's the show called The Story, and I would say that's part of your story is you want to be back up in that inner chamber.
I want to be comfortable. I don't want to have to exert myself. I don't want to have to do anything I don't like. I hated school. I loathed school from kindergarten. One of the happiest days of my life, other than finally getting the selective service off my ass and selling a house that I owned once, was graduating from high school. My God, what a relief. Those people, the rules and the regulations, and learning about the goddamned Battle of Hastings and algebra and other stuff that I loathed. And I've never needed to know about the Battle of Hastings since, or algebra, even though Katie was using it in the grocery store yesterday to make me wrong, showing her mathematical skills in action. So, anyway, enough about me. But it's very much where I'm at. I reject reality because I find reality unsatisfactory probably 99% of my life. The first time I did acid, when I was 28 years old, I like to talk about my acid trips. Don't do
We've
acid.
noticed.
This is not a recommendation to do acid. Very serious substance that LSD is, and that can really bend your head if you're bendable. And but for me, it cracked the door open and let me see reality as totally, splendidly, magnificently acceptable the way it was for a few hours, for the first time in my adult life. And I finally figured out, and our work is very much about this, what that amounted to was my subjective value judgments about everything, good, better, best, bestest, acceptable, ugly, pretty, not so okay, mediocre, all those judgments that I didn't realize that I imposed on everything in reality. The level of what we call subjective ego was erased chemically for a few hours, and I was left with my objective mind and could see physical reality as it was in an unjudgmental state, and it was the most beautiful, magnificent, life-changing experience. It changed my life forever. I've never been the same. So remember, kids, do drugs and you may wind up like me. So that's enough said.
We talked in our show about love. We called The Mechanics of Love. Some about flight, fight, animal responses, and that we think that the mind operates in that way. That most of our thinking is based on kind of a flight, fight. You're either fleeing from something or you're aggressing against it, trying to change it. And in that song, Bend Like a Willow, you talk about the place of peace. I just spit something out of my mouth. I don't know if you can
I've
see
noticed
it on
that
the
too,
camera.
projectiles when I'm singing. But the neat thing is it's because the lights are forward of us. So I don't think they see that on camera.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like,
well,
we can see it against the dark. We can see
it
it against the dark, but they can't see it because
If
we're
I had
all
a
lit
funny
up.
look on my face, it's because I saw this thing going, meow.
That's okay. You couldn't help it.
But that the place of peace that I sought many in my life, I'm finding is in this place of what we said was the alternative to the flight and fight, which is the facing of reality. That through not trying to change it in any way anymore, just accepting the way it is but see, he rolls his eyes like it's a nightmare.
Coral
and the
Sling
truth
Boy.
is that it's real. That's where peace is.
It is. It is. I know it intellectually. It's just not my experience, you know.
But why?
Here comes our cat trying to get on the TV show again every week.
That's right.
What do you want?
Maybe next time if she comes through, I'll pick her up so
Yeah,
everybody
at
can see
home
her.
can see her.
That's right.
Their question of meaning cat, like the I Ching dog.
But yeah, so it's interesting how even though you maybe intellectually know that it brings peace, you still reject it. You're rejecting acceptance
Yeah.
because there's some, and you know, it's like one of the things I've found useful in looking at the way the world works is to say, follow the money. You know, if you can't figure out why a politician does what they do or a political party, or it's just, you know, just follow the money and you can discover it. Well, I think it's the same thing in our life. Where's the payoff? That
I'm getting something out of it.
That's how the ego works by, it's pro-survival. So it operates based on what it thinks is going to bring about the best survival for you. And if that means continuing to reject reality, that's because somehow you're still getting payoffs and you think that you're getting a better result by rejecting reality than accepting reality. Where I've had enough times that I've accepted reality that, you know, I'm, you know, when maybe we could talk about this some.
Well, I think you're on some. Go ahead.
Well, no,
All
this
right.
is just, I'm just kind of actually flowing from there. That one thing we haven't talked about much, we've alluded to a few times, is free will, that we don't believe in free will. But then I thought, okay, well, you know, we thought, well, how do you change? I mean, I've changed in my life. There's no question about it. As I talked about a few shows ago, I've changed dramatically in the last 6 or 7 years. So how did that happen if it's not a free will choice that I'm making? And
Good question.
so I looked back at a time, there was a period of time, Arthur's alluded to this, when we were living a pretty wild, crazy, hedonistic life. We did a lot of cocaine back, it was the mid-'80s. A lot of other people were doing cocaine.
Definitely don't do that, kids.
Don't do
that stuff is, there are no redeeming.
And so I thought, well, here's a good example of
go for it if you need to.
Change, because, you know, there was a period of time when I did a lot, and then I stopped doing it. So how did I stop? How can I explain the choices I made if it was not through free will? And so I started looking at it like a seesaw, that when I first started doing cocaine, you know, so you could say there's on one side of the seesaw is the positives, and on the opposite side is the negatives for any behavior. So wherever the seesaw is will determine what your behavior is. So when I first started doing it, it was all on the positive side. I mean, I just, you know, had a great time, you know, was wild and crazy, you know, and all varieties of behavior, including sex. And so everything was on the positive side. The seesaw was, stuck on the bottom on that side. The negative side was way up in the air. I did cocaine, okay? But over time, as I continued to do it, and I started accumulating some examples of the negatives of doing cocaine, like feeling horrible the next day, feeling like I was kind of wasting my life, you know,
facing
worrying
the
addiction, right,
addictive qualities of it.
Right, worrying about getting, you know, put in jail, you know, I mean, all sorts of stuff. And so
objective facts.
These negatives started accumulating. So the seesaw, it was still pretty far down on the ground over here, but it wasn't quite so slammed into the ground. And over time, the positives started to diminish and the negatives started to accumulate. The seesaw started going like this and kind of balancing out. And those were the times I started thinking about quitting doing it. But, oh, you know, it's still fun. Well, but I feel bad. And so I would go back and forth. I'd resolve to quit, but then I'd be tempted to do it again. And that was the time of struggle, quote unquote, because my seesaw was pretty much balanced. But the negatives continued to accumulate and the positives diminished, till one day the number of negatives were so high that it hit bottom on the, it's an interesting way to put it, on the negative side. And I really, then that was a turning point for me.
And that was it.
And I may have done it once or twice more, but it was it. And I didn't look, and eventually, I got to the point where I didn't look back because the negatives had outweighed the positives. And so it's just, once again, we really like the mechanical look at things. And for me, that really explains. So, and this is the payoff. Once again, this is I thought was a good example of, when I said, Arthur, follow the payoff, because I think this is really how it works. So if you object, you say, well, gosh, I know it would be better to accept reality, but why do I keep rejecting it? Well, because there's still some payoffs over there. There's still some positives over there on the scale, on your seesaw. And, until you're convinced that they really aren't giving you a payoff. It's a
Yeah, I'm alone.
Yeah.
I get to be alone and right with my philosophy, with my world view. I think people are full of crap and they don't know it.
right.
That's a profound conviction, a profound feeling that we're not going to make it. That this self-extinction thing. That the
I've
doomsday
noticed.
clock is just before midnight. That
You say that almost every show.
all the time. Yeah. Well, it could even be on a personal level, self-extinction. That there's just a growing boredom with life. I mean, the same old, behavior, after the 60s, after we kicked ass and took names, you put George W. Bush in the White House of the United States for 8 years. My God, they should have got biohazard teams in there to scrape the ugly off the wall after those people moved out. Jesus H. Christ. I mean, talk about never learning. Here comes the Tea Party, with the, God, the latest dreck spewed out to America on the networks. It's just like sitting there with their thumbs up our rear ends while the country is completely taken over by the
So
rich.
talk more about your personal
Well,
life.
this is my personal life. This is my world view. It doesn't make for happy camper time.
Yeah.
Optimism nauseates me. I don't see anything perfect about it. I think particularly this country, with all the promise and all the, you want to talk about the patriots who died and the people who died on Iwo Jima, and I mean to afford us and the poor people that got drug into Vietnam. And for what? A bunch of lazy, intellectually trifling, Americans to sit on their butts while the United States and all it really stands for just goes down the tubes. I think it's disgusting. I think it's perfect. I think it's absolutely perfect. Let me amend that. My philosophy covers that base. Yeah, it's perfect, all right. It perfectly sucks. And I don't think I'm exaggerating in the least. I'm a freak. I've always been a freak. I was an outsider. I moved I was in 10 schools in the first 13 years, including kindergarten, where I escaped twice in Tallahassee and climbed the chain link fence. If I'm going down the road looking for my mama, someone who understood me, who let me get my way. I hated school. I didn't get it. I hated being told what to do. And after a brief period in high school in Beaufort, South Carolina, of trying to fit in and be one of the in crowd, I heard the siren call of nonconformity. I rejected society in general. I thought they were smiling bird brains, all these, swaggering jocks and, cuckoo, what do you call them? Cheerleaders. I mean, the in crowd. And I still think they're bird brains. We just moved from a place where here they are at the end of the road, after many years of a successful Cadillac dealership or being a lawyer, a doctor, and playing the game. And I watched these same people in civil rights, you want to talk about that? And St. Augustine, Florida, in 1964, watching black people get their asses beat. Hey, redneck Rand from Kentucky, up yours, I remember, I'm 64 years old, Junior. I remember what it was like back then. I got a woman pregnant. I remember what, illegal abortions looked like when I had to go to an underground hospital in Miami to get one. In case the junior league out there doesn't have any memory, you won't get it from the old folks because they don't want to talk about how they sat on their asses and didn't open their mouths. And liberals from the north had to come down to Dixieland and walk side by side with the black people to stop the obscenity of Southern apartheid in this country. I know where you're at, shopkeepers. I know where you're at. Business people are afraid you're going to lose a goddamn buck by doing the right thing, by standing up to evil. Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think when you give an ape higher intelligence, the whole panorama unfolding of unconscious behavior is going to result in Nazi Germany and a lazy, trifling, fat-ass American culture going down the tubes. Because they won't do the right thing. We want it handed to us on a silver platter, you know. We're complaining now because Obama isn't the miracle worker, you know. Well, I voted. I mean, things should work out my way. Anyway, end of rap. So, you know, I got a lot of justifications where I feel that reality is not okay. It's like that serial about life in marvelous Marin County when there are all these trendy cocktail quaffing new age types, you know, or the guys that work at banks to support their wives so they can do every kind of holistic, organic therapy at home in Marin County. When Harvey, the husband, is confronting the psychiatrist, say, "Take it from me, you are not okay. Believe me, you are not okay." Which is a play on the book. I'm okay, you're okay, we're all groovy.
So I don't.
We're not groovy.
Okay, so but I think what we were talking about.
This is good therapy. I really like this.
Yeah,
Something
I know.
interesting could
It
come
is
of
interesting.
this.
So, but you really kind of avoided the question, I think, which was,
What a surprise.
what's the payoff? What is your personal payoff
I get
for
to be
seeing
right.
everything?
Maybe is that a pat answer, but that's what they would say in est, or
Right.
that I get to be right. I feel like I'm justified. The rest of the world is crazy, not me, or at least I know I'm crazy. You know, when I did that, when I dropped acid when I was 28 years old, absolutely blew my mind. I got people, and I thought, man, this is it. My soon-to-be ex-wife, it was a place that we could meet in the light, and we could be as one. We could be equal. We could be being with each other. Didn't work. It's horrible. It's my first acid bummer. Too much garbage. And I tried it with several people, a number of people, and that's always been my reflex. It's like, you see it too? You know, for right or wrong, when I saw 2001, 7 times the first summer, I actually drugged so many people to that movie because I was an atheist, and it was like, it opened possibilities of the metaphysical or something. It really resonated with me. I had almost the whole row, this big theater in Jacksonville. I knew a lot of people in Jacksonville, Florida, and had almost the whole row filled with people I knew to see this incredible film. I've always wanted to share. If I get something, I want to share it. Werner Erhard again said, if you don't share it, you didn't get it. You know, and so I tried to do that with acid. Didn't work. Got into the church, had an amazing born-again experience. Went to a charismatic church, tried to share that with people. Oh, you religious fanatic, nut job. Did the S training, speaking of Werner Erhard, and, tried to drag people to that. So this is phenomenal. It's an intellectual underpinning of what the acid experience is. And when I finally get somebody to do it, I heard this more than once say, well, you certainly were no example of the S training after they did it, which is probably perfectly true. And that's kind of like the story of my life. It's that's what we're doing here. We got some nifty ideas about reality. I mean, if you want to believe you were washed in blood by Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, and you got a ticket to a land of gold that's going to trillions and 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 trillions of years are going to go by, and you're going to be up there with a big, eating grin on your face, celebrating and happy and, boogieing out. To me, that's a nightmare. But if that makes you happy, believe in that stuff, hey, man, go for it. Far be it from me to dampen anyone's optimism, to quote Sam Kinison. I think God's a lot more interesting than that. We think the whole thing is the one pretending to be the many in a state of amnesia. For the experience to be truly unlimited, the unlimited has to experience limitation. So that's a pretty nifty message, and that's what we're doing here, that and other stuff. I mean, we keep looking at the human race, because you know what? I've seen a lot of pain in my life. When we were against Vietnam, what you conservatives called as gook lovers and traitors to our country, and you spit on us. We didn't spit on returning vets. That's a little myth you've conveniently made up in your revisionist history. You still demean the idea of ecology and natural conservation. You sneer at global warming. You talk about Christians saying you better hope you're right, because if you're wrong, you're going to go to hell. You better hope you're right, or you're already toast. A lot of scientists think we already are. It's just this kind of entrenched ignorance that you just have to fight and fight and fight and fight. And when you get old, you just get tired of it. I personally am kind of fed up with it, but this is my last ditch effort. After this, man, I'm going to go live in Mexico and stare into air. But we thought Asheville's, hip, open-minded place. Hopefully not fashionably open-minded. What was that great quote by Pat Moynihan we read where, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So our approach, Katie and my approach, has always been intellectually grounded. I don't give a rat's rear end about New Age. You might as well believe in the tooth fairy. A lot of that stuff, believe me, I've been around it. I lived in California many years, the capital of Cuckooville, And that crap comes rolling off the assembly line, and people think they have it so together, and they so don't. It's so riddled with contradictions. It doesn't make any sense. It's just like, well, yeah, I believe in the tooth fairy. You might as well. Mm-hmm. And, psychologically, you can kid yourself that you're always, I'm not kidding myself that I'm comfortable. I'm not comfortable. I think we are in real trouble. I think most of us are lonely. I think most of us have superficial relationships that we call friendships. I think a lot of us are in long-term relationships where there was love about 1 billion years ago, but it's turned into something else. It's not that. It's become a relationship of convenience. I'm not saying everybody, but a hell of a lot of us.
Well, just us. You can use us as an example.
Damn
Arthur,
right, use us as an example.
In our show, The Mechanics of Love, towards the end of the program, we were doing a song called "I'd Choose Love," and Arthur, we looked at each other, and Arthur was kind of like, "Well, maybe here's our chance to love each other." And
if I were sane, I'd choose but one sensation, and that's to look at you and just feel love.
And we didn't feel any love.
We didn't feel any love.
And
I got bummed out.
And it's funny because he didn't say anything about being upset, but I could tell. He was, but I wasn't even conscious of it really, but it occurred to me then because it got kind of awkward. There was just a few minutes left in the show, and it got kind of awkward. And
kind of got onto politics or something.
I thought, well, here's a chance to, what I thought of saying, okay, why don't we just do nothing and see if we can't evoke love here right now. But I was terrified because I was really afraid that what would be revealed was that I was incapable of it at that moment. And I didn't want to expose that in front of the camera. So I kept my mouth shut. And so the show ended kind of awkwardly because there was these two unspoken things going on with us. And but so, that was where I was coming from. Was, oh, God, I might be revealed to be completely full of shit. Like I can talk a good line, but when it really comes right down to it, I don't know a thing about love.
Our work says that we are all dominated. Unless you're an enlightened saint, please stand up, show your hands. Enlightened saints out there? Careful.
Well, no one's called. You've asked people to call that we're enlightened, and we haven't gotten a call on that yet.
That's right. But the idea is that we are all dominated by our subjective egos. And the nature of the beast is it thinks it's right. And it brooks no dissent. It doesn't want to be challenged. It's why we hang out with people who agree with us. And it makes us crazy because we think we're dealing with reality when we're really not. And so that's why our world looks dysfunctional, because it is. We're in a very dangerous period with thermonuclear weapons and massive stress on our planet due to the industrial age and everything that followed. It's a very dangerous time, and it's imperative that we get a handle on something that we like to call humility, which is realizing the limitations of our beliefs. That means we got to be open to challenge. And fortunately, we think there's some delicious messages that are not just us, but that are in the world and have been in the world. But it requires the humility to question, am I really happy? I mean, is this really all there is? Like Tony Montana said in Scarface, eating, drinking, blanking. You know, is this it, man? You know, is it really enough for you? Is your medical practice really all there is? Is once you get the second vacation home in Vail, I mean, is that it? Or for most of us, just, I don't know, paying the damn bills.
Well, that's what actually was occurring to me to say earlier was, what is life about? And what is life about for most people? I mean, is it really, it seems to be just sort of getting through it.
Yeah.
And, getting a job, having children, creating a family, having a somewhat satisfying career, if that's
beer.
possible, having some friends, and then getting old and dying.
Yeah. And we suggest, and this is one of the cornerstones of our work, the basis of all fear, the source of all fear is the unknown. There is no damn way to be comfortable when you're in a state of profound ignorance, which we all are. Greatest scientist who ever lived, who had any integrity at all, would be the first to admit they don't know jack, what, about anything. They don't know what one dot of matter is. We can do a lot of parlor tricks, but it's still floating on a sea of gigantic ignorance. So we live in a state of fear. That's our philosophy. And pretending like it doesn't live there, apple a day keeps the doctor away, death and taxes.
Let's do a song.
All right.
I was thinking Long Way to Go. I think that is appropriate.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Well,
certainly in my case.
You just mentioned humility, and that is one of the lines in there.
Yeah, it is.
But it's certainly, the feeling that not individually and collectively, the human race has a long way to go. But hey,
damn sure
but
do.
also our theory is what else is there to do? I mean, it's all about taking this journey.
That's right.
It's the journey, not the destination, right?
Yeah, dude, that's what I always believed. It's like what was that name of that book? Your karma ran over my dogma.
That's right.
2, 3.
Well, I guess I've got a long, long way to go. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't try to hit that note. 3. Well, I guess I've got a long, long way to go. But I know there's really nothing else to do than learn to give myself up to the flow of this current that is leading to the truth. Sometimes it's just like drowning and I feel like I could die. Most times I think I'm losing, no matter how I try. And the times I feel I'm winning, God, how fast they fly. But truth is on my side, and that I truly can't deny. Well, I guess I'll have to unlearn all I know. And there's nothing worse than feeling I'm a fool. But feeling is the only way to grow, and humility the one and only tool. Sometimes it's just like drowning and I feel like I could die. Most times I think I'm losing, no matter how I try. And the times I feel I'm winning, God, how fast they fly. But truth is on my side, and that I truly can't deny. Well, I guess this road is longer than it seemed, but despite it all, it's proved my only friend. And the path is harder than I ever dreamed, but with truth here on my side, I'm bound to win. Oh, sometimes it's just like drowning and I feel like I could die. Most times I think I'm losing, no matter how I try. And the time I feel I'm winning, God, how fast they fly, but truth is on my side, and that I truly can't deny. I hope lies aren't on my side. Yeah, this isn't a cop out. I'm really suffering. I've got allergy city, so my throat is really just a ragged ball of meat. How's that? Got any visuals on that, folks? So I mean, did I cop out? Did I evade the question? What am I getting out of it? I just kind of spewed that's my case, is what's wrong with reality. And I threw cleverly a little lip service into the perfection of that. It's absolutely perfect. If the human race extincts itself, my big boogaboo, that is perfect. That was written, as far as we're concerned, because we don't believe in the Big Bang. You know, we're not even sure we believe in linear time. We're pretty sure we don't, but we don't want to go that far right now. Let's just say that if the human race on planet Earth extincts itself, that was forged in the Big Bang, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it. It's perfect. But I believe that you have to, as Katie said, not be a dish rag, but you know, you can face reality. And if you're really facing it, not judging it horribly and making people wrong and offending people by they're kind of realizing that you think they're completely full
Here you go
of
off
crap.
again. Because I'll tell you what I think. Because I've seen it some in my life about feeling kind of hopeless about things. A payoff that comes to mind, because it's true in my life. Getting out of doing anything about it. If you think it's really hopeless, if you've given up, if you think it's just, you just say, well, I can sit back and watch TV.
But I'm not. Look, we're broadcasting. This is like our 13th or 14th show.
Yeah.
We just moved to Asheville. Here's a great introduction. Look, two radical weirdos, you know.
We're
still trying.
But maybe we make ourselves look good by trying, but it's just like not really trying that hard.
Yeah, because what we're really doing is looking bad, which is self-defeating, so we can feel justified. And
yeah, this is the sound of your own wheels driving you crazy. Is that what you're saying?
Don't do what we do, folks. Never go here. Just accept life. You know, it really is all about reproducing and eating and having regular bowel movements and, you know, and what else? You know, buying a home and having your cemetery plottage paid up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, doing your little bit to help the world be a better place.
That's all there is. So just ignore this show. Tune in. I think Dancing with the Stars is maybe on right now, or American Idol.
Arthur's favorite example of the horrors of our modern culture.
Who said you shall have no idols before me? We're a country of idols, man. From Cadillacs to you name it.
Do you know, I just saw this. It's really interesting. I have to learn more about it, but I've just seen two references to it. This Frankfurt School of, and I really don't know any more about it than that, and that this was a conservative blogger. He's Breitbart, I think is his name. He's the one whose website, the Acorn video, you know, the couple that went in and pretended to be the pimp and the prostitute. Mm-hmm. His
very convincing
website was the first place that showed. Well, he claimed that liberals were really smarter than conservatives in terms of their approach to gaining acceptance, because what the liberals did is they went after the cultural elements. The liberal ideas infiltrated the culture into things like TV, movies, school education, and it's.
You mean via those mediums?
Yes, music. So that all this, all this. Well, no, not liberal press. The liberal ideas of tolerance.
I got it. Yeah.
And liberation to
nudity,
do anything.
Sex before marriage, all that stuff was conveyed
do your own
through movies, yeah.
Right, whatever you want. And so that the liberal mindset has permeated our culture in a really effective way through the cultural, these medium of culture, whereas the poor conservatives are, left to trying to do it from the pulpit or
fighting a rearguard action, as it were. There's merit in that, I think. Yeah,
and I'm not sure that it was a conspiracy, as they made it kind of like it was a conspiracy.
Well, that's what I think. All you idiots who think we're going to go back to the Dark Ages, ban abortion and watch what happens. I hope you got another winger on the Supreme Court. Watch. Try to put that horse back in the barn and a whole bunch of other horses. So
Yeah.
you're going to be in for a big surprise. I guess. They elected George Bush. I didn't think anybody would vote for that clown. Anyway.
Yeah, so it was an interesting thing. Yeah, because, from my point of view, it's just the liberal mindset is really the mindset of liberation of human beings. So it's a natural progression, and it wasn't anything that was like a conspiracy. I mean, I just read about this Chinese artist in the New Yorker magazine, and he was describing taking some people from China to out of the country, and just kind of this random collection of people, some of whom were kind of from really primitive areas of China, so to speak. And the women didn't have names. This is what it said. In some of these cultures, women did not have formal names, so we had to make them up so they could have a passport. I mean, I can't tell you how, obviously this has really bothered me. I mean, that in 2010, or I guess this was maybe a couple of years ago, 2008, there were still places on Earth where women, it wasn't considered important enough to give her a name because she's a female. I mean, imagine.
I was in Afghanistan in 1976 and 75, 76, 77. And I remember this guy was a hotel owner talking about villages where you could get the best woman, man, the best, And it was like he was describing horse flesh, No doubt a woman that would throw herself on your funeral pyre. It's a Muslim country. They don't do that. They bury them. But it's like that. They try some of the tribal areas in Pakistan. There's autonomous tribal regions.
Right.
And you'll, I'm sure.
So, for me, it's not this like liberal conspiracy to spread these horrible ideas through culture. It's that this is a liberating impulse of the human spirit.
Yes.
To be free and for every person to have their own individual autonomy and respect, and that because you're a woman or because you have a color of your skin means nothing. That everybody's equal. Everyone has equal rights. These are profound human rights that this is the liberal impulse that is coming through all these cultural forms. And sure, there's excesses, but to see it as some horrible conspiracy, which is what this conservative viewers, it's like, I just can't, it's hard for me to even imagine having that point of view.
Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between the real right wing and Islamic fundamentalist.
Yeah.
You like laws. You like to tell people what to do, no matter, it's the law. The law is the law, Punish the offender, lock them up, treat them to rape and violence in a cell.
Well, certainly, I would say right-wingers have that in common with Muslim fundamentalists, is they want to go back to some prior time when everything was perfect and everybody knew their place.
When a woman would throw herself on your funeral pyre,
right, and religion,
those were the days.
Yeah, and the religious organization was in control.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
God said it, I believe it, and you better or I'll kill you. Oh, yeah. And I said to myself, what a wonderful world. It's a screwed up world. It's a crazy world. And maybe the first step in any kind of recovery is to get that you're crazy, possibly. We have a nifty definition of insanity. It's the state in which we confuse our subjective opinions with objective fact. The mind is required. What we're talking about, if we survive, if we don't off ourselves, we're going to enter the epoch of objective mind. We're going to free ourselves from this enslavement to subjective ego. And usher in, you talk about the New Age, this is it, babies. This is the all that enlightenment stuff you've heard about, transcending. This is it. That's what it's all about. Like Werner said again, I've got Werner on the brain today. All that mystical stuff is just what's so. It's just the objective truth. You don't have to shave your head and beat a tom-tom. You can.
Actually, that just, since we're just sort of throwing things out.
Yeah, let's throw things out.
Arthur was actually looked up a quote Werner had put together, because I did the S training also, had put together, they called the little brown book of aphorisms that they gave to people when they graduated, or in the early years. I'm not sure that they kept doing it forever, but anyway.
It was a special event that they passed the book out. It was like a big party where John Denver was supposed to play, and he got snowed in Aspen at his private
Anyway, so
airstrip.
it was this little book of aphorisms, and so there was one that Arthur wanted to he thought of it and went online to look at it, and so he found this place that had a reprint of the aphorisms, and then at the bottom there was an edition. It was in a different typeface, but there was no indication at the website where this edition had come from. But it was
Clearly Warner.
It was not clearly.
I think it was, yeah.
But it was really beautiful, and it's I've been trying to remember it, and basically what it says is that when we encounter somebody in the world, we ordinarily
Focus on their garbage.
Focus on their garbage, and give space to the part that is that essence of the true identity inside, which we would say the one, the being.
The quote said the God part.
The God part. But we focus on the garbage, trying to fix the garbage, or being angry at the garbage, or trying to whatever we want to do with the garbage. And in the quote it said we really should do the reverse, that ignore the garbage, because everyone's got that garbage aspect to them. So when somebody presents themselves to you, just let them do their thing, but ignore it.
You're aware of the garbage, but you don't focus on it.
Right. Focus on the true nature, their true nature, the God within, the being, the true being of who they are, and relate to them as if that's who they are, because it really is who they are. But and so just. And it was like revelatory, because I am totally distracted by the garbage all the time. And what would that look like if you just let people have their stuff, but don't focus on it. Don't act like that's all they are. And
we had a great friend in Florida who died in his sleep a year ago, just about a year ago now, and that was his approach. Mm-hmm. And he had over 800 people came to his funeral.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
No one will come to mine, because they all realize, I don't think you're okay.
That's right.
I'm angry. I had a newsletter once, another one of my efforts to put it out there, and somebody wrote me, said there's an undercurrent of venom and people are picking up on it. Perfectly true. We were talking about that in an earlier show. I'd like to keep my passion and get the anger out, because the anger is just being right. The anger comes from a rejection of reality, which is completely insane. And of course I am insane, but that's what it is. I would like to be able to be, after writing books on the subject, maybe to lose the anger, to really see the perfection of it. I mean, this is the universe unfolding. This is the Big Bang, 14 billion years into process right now. Look around you. This is it. And there's not a thing we can do about it except accept it or not accept it. You can't even do that. But maybe you could notice that you're not accepting it and it's not bringing you any particular happiness, Arthur.
Because if we're talking about this moment right here, right now, there is absolutely nothing you can do about it, because it's already here.
Werner again said, you don't get to vote on the way it is. You already did, which means your present physiological, psychological configuration has already judged the moment. By the time you become aware of the moment, you've already judged it and categorized it.
That's true. But what I meant by that was that the way it is right now, I mean, you can't do anything to affect the way it is in this present moment. So if you're it's not like you can fix it so that you can accept it now. It's already passed. So you might as well just accept it and go on from here. But man, it's so easy to reject it.
Well, that's what Be Here Now is, because the more you can align with the present and really accept the present, the closer you move into it. Right. All that processing, like, people are full of, and all that judgmental stuff takes processing time. That's part of our book too, is why time goes faster and faster the older you get. Remember what a childhood summer used to feel like? Oh man, it's like a geological age. And now, it's like a blink of the eye and summer's gone. because we're not here experiencing anymore. We're so full of preconceptions. The main one being, I've seen it, been there, done that. Okay, you're going to work the first time, or you're going to somebody's house for the first time and you're following directions. Going to work's better. You're following directions. Seems to take a long time to get there, because you're really present. You're looking around, looking at clues. It's a new way you haven't gone before. And you're really there in the scene. You're actually consciously present. After you've gone there, you learn the route, you don't need the directions, and you start going there every day. Man, it's like no time at all. You know why? Because you're in mental vacation. What about that sales meeting yesterday? And I'm going, I got to get, and I got to get groceries on the way home today. You're not even there. This machine is driving the car, and you're off in Never Never Land. You're not even aware of the passage of reality all around you. It's one of the benefits of LSD. It'll take care of that. Man, are you going to be in the present?
But actually, Albert Einstein gave an example to show the relativity of time, that when you're with your best girl, is the way he put it, an hour flashes by just in a wink of an eye. But if you're going to a lecture of a class, I'm not sure what his boring example is, but say you're going
you're at a job you don't like.
You're at a job you don't like.
I relate to that.
And an hour could take forever when you watch the clock and the minute hand doesn't seem to be moving.
That's relativity.
That's relativity. And all of us can experience that.
Yeah, we got
so
3
and
minutes
that's
left.
the mental processing that's changing that. So what?
Let's don't do another song. Let's talk it out.
One day we're just not even going to put the guitars on.
Yeah, we're not. We may not do that. Stop using these props here and just.
Well, to be honest, one of the things we thought was that we could maybe lure people into watching the show with the songs, that they might find the songs attractive in a way that our just talking wouldn't be.
Jesus, I think this has been a pretty interesting show. We should have more of this. I think we should be really outrageous, more outrageous than we are. Really let it all out. So it's before 11 o'clock, so we have to be somewhat demure in our presentation and our language. But
what is the goal of this show for you?
I'm lonely. I'm really lonely. I always have been. Mm-hmm. And the place of the light, the place of the truth, where people are transparent and we're beyond our egos, when we're just being with each other, it's the only time I feel comfortable with other human beings. I don't want you to say I'm right. I want you to be with me. I want us to be equal, not two egos clashing on our superficial bullshit levels, not sparring, not competing, not outdoing, not judging. I'm insecure. I need love. I need a loving relationship. I'd rather sit at home and watch American Idol. And I have watched it a couple of times just to see if maybe I'm overdoing it. I'm not overdoing it. No, that show. It's always there. What does someone say? The sewer of obscenity. They were writing about an article in Mother Jones about Hustler magazine. Said that the sewer of obscenity is always flowing. So when a cesspool clogs up and overflows, why get upset? And call it. When a cesspool overflows and calls itself a magazine, why get upset? Yeah, we got things to say. We want to share. This is where we're at in this period. We may die. And by God, we'll go down swinging, man. I'm 64 years old, and I'm a wild man. And I will die a wild man. You will never, ever take me alive. Not in this life, baby. So, what you see is what you get. And I think we've come up with we have, obsessively pursued these ideas, written a couple of books on the subject of what the hell is really going on. And we think there's merit to that, and we're here to share. That's what I want.
But thanks for watching, and hope you watch again Thursdays, 7:30.
Jeez, what a therapy session. You think we should talk again, Doctor?
Yes, soon, tomorrow.